We will seal the border. We will stop the invasion immediately. We will begin the largest deportation operation in the history of our country because we have no choice.
There's an elected president here in the U.S. that's really puts the blame over migrants like me.
You know, you never forget what that feeling is of being separated from your family. You never forget what it feels like to be alone like that and not knowing what the next steps will be.
The fear tactic that is being used is extremely effective.
There's a lot of anguish for undocumented families. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of uncertainty about what is to come.
A wall to keep everybody out. In the throes of full-on capitalism in one of the busiest malls in Southern California. Only in America.
In his first 100 days in office, Trump plans on beginning mass deportation and denaturalization efforts.
To prepare for what's to come, California activists are working alongside local organizations to protect migrants in the border state.
We've been through something similar before during the first administration, where based on the rhetorics that came from then President Trump, we had over 33,000 Haitians who fled the United States to Canada.
Yes, we are definitely anticipating a reiteration of many of the policies that Trump enacted in his first administration. During the campaign trail, his last go around, he basically ran on the Muslim ban, which he then implemented within his first month in office.
I think what we're also going to be seeing on his second term is the further worsening of the economy and also the further prioritization of big corporations and big businesses that really grows out of the suffering and exploitation of migrant workers, not just Filipinos, but all across the spectrum.
When President Trump terminated TPS for Haiti and Honduras and other countries, we saw an impact of that. So we are bracing ourselves for what is to come, but we are also ready to fight in the courts to make sure that people's lives are protected, especially undocumented people.
California is a sanctuary state, meaning law enforcement isn't even allowed to share information with immigration officials. But activists say that hasn't been enough to protect migrants.
Sanctuary states are meant to protect people from federal authorities or cooperating with federal authorities. State police, local police, for instance, can't necessarily report people to institutions like ICE to get these people arrested, deported, or whatnot.
Here in California, yes, it is a sanctuary state, a sanctuary city in many of our cities here in California. However, based on what we went through before, we know that they are members of the police and others who will go around what is in place and do coordinate with ICE and other entities. So that is a fear.
There are cops who take it upon themselves to be in touch with ICE themselves and calling ICE. And it's mostly an advisement. There's no punishment to police if they don't follow the sanctuary rule.
This is the U.S.-Mexico border in San Diego, California, where hundreds of thousands of migrants cross every single year.
Due to the lack of accountability, local organizations are fighting to get additional local protections against deportations outside of state protections.
We're here in front of the county supervisor's offices in San Diego because there is an effort across the state of California by localities and counties to make sure that the Trump administration, that ICE is not using local resources to target, to take custody, to deport more and more of our communities across California.
The measure San Diego activists fought for this year was adopted 3-1, but the county sheriff, Kelly Martinez, has claimed her office will not be complying with the county's policy and will continue to work with ICE officials when migrants are released from county jails. More than 300,000 Haitians have been granted temporary humanitarian parole since January 2023, allowing them the opportunity to apply for asylum. San Diego has become a major port of entry.
In San Diego, where we have over 10,000 Haitians, they are still fighting to win their asylum. One good thing is that we do have TPS in place right now. And if President-elect Trump were to push forth with the termination of TPS for Haitians, that will be a great impact in San Diego specifically. So we are ready to fight on behalf of the community. We are ready to fight for the Haitian community, but in reality, for all immigrant communities who are under attack and whose lives are at risk.
Berkeley was the first city in the state to claim sanctuary city status in 1971. Since then, over 400 cities in the state have claimed that additional status. Los Angeles is the latest on the list. Why was it so important for you and the council to pass this in this moment in time?
The Sanctuary City Ordinance has been important to us from the moment that we got into office. So we've been working on this ordinance for over a year. We knew that the executive directive that made the city a city of sanctuary was not permanent. So that if an administration change were to occur, one that would be more conservative or more aligned with what the federal government is going to do in the next administration, that would put way more people in danger. And so at this moment, before this new Trump administration comes in, we worked really diligently to get it across the finish line, because we saw in the last administration, it wasn't just empty words. It wasn't just rhetoric. ICE was in MacArthur Park. ICE was in South LA. They were here taking people from their homes. And so we want to do whatever we can to try to prevent that family separation from happening in our own backyards.
Even in those localities where we do enact sanctuary policies, it is important to be honest with folks. A sanctuary policy is not a magic solution that's going to protect everybody. Localities can say that their local resources will not be used for deportation and detention, but that doesn't make ICE disappear. That doesn't make everybody safe.
The California Values Act already exists, and yet the last time that Trump was in office, we did see, for example, in Orange County, ICE transfers go from 17 the year prior to over 300. For example, in San Bernardino County has the highest rates of ICE transfers in California, and has actually 3 ICE detention or processing centers.
The Adelanto Detention Center is one of the 3 in San Bernardino and one of the largest in the nation. Activists have been calling for the head of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, to shut down the center.
This facility is known to be one of the most horrible in terms of conditions, inhumane treatment, limited access to even legal resources, a lot of medical neglect. 8 deaths have happened in this detention center. I have had a family member detained in Adelanto, and it was one of the worst experiences I've ever gone through. Since then, I've been working so that no other families in the inland region and beyond have to experience what I went through.
ICE detains just under 3,000 detainees each day, held in 6 different facilities across California.
I've been impacted by family separation as a toddler, so I know what it feels like to be ripped from your family in different ways. A lot of my other family members as well have been incarcerated in our immigrant prison system, our other carceral systems as well. And so when it comes, and even then, when I was running for office, I was meeting young people who were saying, ICE came to my apartment and took my dad, you know, and now my mom doesn't want to go out of the apartment and I have to do all the chores and errands and everything. And so that really, that impacted me a lot.
We have had, over the last 6 months, tens of thousands of Palestinians and Jordanians and people from the Middle East coming here to the United States to seek some sort of security, some sort of safety. This country is arming and funding a genocide in Palestine. And instead of not arming and funding that genocide, they would rather not give refugee status to the Palestinians and make it even harder for Palestinians who are fleeing one of the worst situations in the world right now to be able to even find some sort of safety and security.
As long as the Trump administration is in control of ICE, and ICE is susceptible to these right-wing, white nationalist vision for America, our families are not going to be safe. And so we need to be honest and say we need to enact these sanctuary policies, but there are no guarantees. We're going to have to be active, we're going to have to be loud to do whatever we can to protect our communities and our loved ones.
The fight goes on. The fight continues, and we continue to organize Filipino migrant workers. Right now, we have a lot of campaigns surrounding addressing the issue of houselessness, wage theft, and trafficking amongst Filipinos here in Southern California and here in Los Angeles as well.
Regardless of whether you're an attorney or consider yourself an activist, just really need to get involved. Speak up for the most vulnerable people in our communities. Call your council members, call your state legislators, and tell them that they need to protect everyone in their communities, regardless of their class, status, and what their background is.
Immigrants are the central nervous system of our city, and so we got to do whatever we can to protect them. And right now, it's not very clear on what steps that administration will actually take for us to then play defense on. But I think we know enough to know that we're gonna have to be on our toes, and that community's gonna have to reinvigorate their mutual aid networks, their communication networks, so that people can get clear and accurate information to be safe.
It is imperative that immigrants and non-immigrants alike understand that we are connected. Our future, our present, it's all connected. So it is time for non-immigrant communities to also come around the immigrant communities and make sure they are protected.
Will migrants in California be safer than the rest of the country?